In most Minnesota suburbs, pull tabs are a normal way for nonprofits to raise money. But in Edina, they've been largely banned. Until now. On February 4th, the Edina City Council voted to rewrite its gambling ordinance, opening the door to charitable pull tabs for the first time in decades.
The new ordinance would allow up to 6 charitable gambling permits in Edina, with limits to prevent any single nonprofit from dominating the system. Only local nonprofits would qualify, and most of the money raised would stay in or near Edina. Leading the push for this change is Kathy Rendelman, Executive Director of the Edina Education Fund. For Rendelman, this isn't just about a game in a bar. It's about modernizing how the community supports its schools and local services.
The Edina Education Fund is working with the Edina Athletic Boosters in partnership to work with the City of Edina to repeal and replace the current ordinance that works with charitable gambling at the City of Edina. We are hoping that they change their current ordinance to allow for charitable gambling at establishments that currently serve alcohol in the city, to allow for charitable gambling that would bring in games such as pull tabs so that nonprofits in the City of Edina could profit from charitable gambling and use that profit to help nonprofits in the city bring more to their organizations. The Edina Education Fund and the Athletic Boosters being two huge umbrella organizations in our city that really cover all students in the Edina Public Schools from the Early Learning and Family Center all the way through grade 12, brings so much to our students and staff in Edina Public Schools, and we really feel like we could cover every hornet every day.
Under the proposal, 70% of net proceeds must be spent in the local region. 3% goes to the city to cover regulation costs, and 10% goes to a city-administered fund for community uses. Supporters, including Kathy Rendelman, argue that charitable gambling could provide a new revenue stream for community programs. Across Minnesota, pull tabs are already a massive source of funding. According to the Minnesota Gambling Control Board fiscal year 2024 report, charitable gambling generated $2.3 billion in gross receipts statewide, most of it from pull tabs. Local organizations say the money could help fund student programs, mental health initiatives, athletic scholarships, and nonprofit services. Some council members also argue that Edina already has unmet needs, despite its reputation as an affluent community. But not everyone is convinced. Critics raise concerns about gambling's social impact. Edina City Council member Kate Agnew was especially concerned about Edina's lower-income residents. She argued that the policy would expose Edina residents to the dangers of gambling. Rendelman views these concerns with a pragmatic lens.
This happens in our community. It happens in St. Louis Park, it happens in Minnetonka, it happens in Hopkins. Whether it happens in Edina or not, you can cross right over into St. Louis Park and take part in this. What we're trying to do is, if it's going to happen and people are just going to cross the street and do this in a restaurant across our border into St. Louis Park, let's get some of that revenue right here at home and use it for our students and staff.
Others question whether the money would actually reach the groups the city hopes to support. Some council members worried about a race to the bar, where only a few organizations secure permits while others are left out. And there was discussion from the mayor and city council member James Pierce on whether to raise the 3-permit figure from other suburbs to 6.
Yeah, they're kind of fine-tuning what they're going to do with this ordinance right now, and they're looking at whether they're going to allow 3 establishment restaurants or they're going to allow 6 restaurants to actually go in for whether they're going to do pull tabs or not. And we're encouraging the city to potentially not even put a cap on the number of restaurants that can do this. That would be our preference. Any restaurant that would really like to do this should be allowed to do that. I don't know how many restaurants in Edina are really set up or really have the desire to have charitable gambling at their location. It has to be a restaurant that has alcohol. We were not talking about putting in charitable gambling at a place like Caribou or at Perkins. This has to be an establishment that has a bar. There are certain regulations that the state puts out there. So there's a limited number of locations to begin with. And then the location actually has to want this.
Others argue that the city moved too quickly, with limited data on how many nonprofits would participate or how much money would actually be raised. In the end, the City Council approved the ordinance on a first reading by a 4-1 vote, with City Council member Kate Agnew in dissension. The Council is scheduled to bring the measure to a final vote on March 3rd. The city will continue shaping how charitable gambling operates in Edina regardless. For supporters, pull tabs represent opportunity, new funding for community needs. For critics, they represent risk, introducing a system with real social costs and unanswered questions. As Edina moves forward, the debate is less about gambling itself and more about what kind of a community the city wants to be.
It would bring more to you in your education if this passed. At the same time, this is bringing gambling, charitable gambling, pull tabs into Edina. What does that mean? Where is that in your moral compass? That is a very fair question. It is some things that we're talking to people about, people that are against gambling. It is a good conversation to have.
These questions and more the City of Edina will grapple with long after the debate at City Hall is over.